You know, when you build a massive state-of-the-art bank vault with like 3-foot thick steel doors and a whole grid of laser sensors, you have this expectation of absolute, undeniable security.
Right, yeah.
The system is supposed to be flawless, right?
Yeah.
It's completely binary.
It's designed to eliminate human error entirely. I mean, the laser is either tripped or it isn't. We really find comfort in that because, well, we like things to be visible and predictable and strictly categorized.
Exactly. But then imagine you're standing there and you watch that exact same flawless security system suddenly lock the bank manager outside in the rain.
Oh, man.
While simultaneously tossing bundles of cash out the window to someone on the street.
Yeah, at that point, you'd probably start wondering who actually programmed those lasers. It ceases to be about a simple technical glitch. It instantly becomes a question of intent.
And that feeling, that sudden, overwhelming shift from trusting the system to actively suspecting the system, that is exactly what we are exploring today. So, welcome to another deep dive. Today we are taking you right into the heart of just an explosive controversy from the knockout stages of the World Cup.
Oh, it is a huge one.
It involves Argentina, Egypt, and this massive, massive wave of global accusations that the entire tournament is, to use the internet's favorite word right now, rigged.
It is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters, but it's playing out on a global sporting scale where literally billions of people are watching.
Right. And our source for this deep dive is a highly detailed, incredibly thorough breakdown from the YouTube channel called The World Cup Reporter.
A great channel.
Yeah, really good stuff. And our mission today isn't just to recap a soccer match. We're going to unpack this specific game as a fascinating case study. We want to figure out what happens when a global institution entirely loses the trust of its audience. So, you're ready. Okay, let's unpack this.
To truly understand the scale of the fallout here, we really need to start at the micro level. I mean, we need to look at the exact moment of the match. And honestly, the entire internet just broke.
We have to set the scene because before the chaos, I mean, this was just genuinely brilliant football. We are in Atlanta.
Right.
Egypt is playing the reigning world champions, Argentina. The tension in that stadium is incredibly high. And then Egypt pulls off this counterattack that is just pure poetry.
Oh, it was beautiful.
They break 80 yards down the pitch. Mo Salah threads this absolutely perfect pass across the grass, and Mostafa Zico slots it home. The shirt comes off. The crowd is absolutely deafening. It's 2-0 Egypt against the reigning champions. The upset of the tournament is happening right in front of you.
Then the VAR, the video assistant referee steps in, and this is where the timeline of the game essentially just fractures.
Wait, I totally assumed they were just checking that final pass from Salah for an offside, right? Like something in the immediate buildup?
No. They started rewinding,
Okay.
and not 5 seconds, not 10 seconds. They rewound 17 full seconds. They didn't just go back in time. They went all the way back to the completely opposite end of the pitch. What the video officials found by putting the footage under an absolute microscope was this minor shirt tug and a stepped-on toe by an Egyptian player.
Are you kidding?
And just like that, the goal is deleted, completely erased from the scoreboard.
It feels like getting pulled over for a piston taillight, like 3 miles after you already won a drag race. It's just this jarring removal from the flow of reality.
It really is.
And to understand why people lost their minds over this, we have to look at the broader context of how this tournament was being run up until that exact second.
Right, because just a week prior to this match, Pierluigi Collina, who is FIFA's head of referees, literally the ultimate authority on officiating, he explicitly told his officials to allow normal football contact. The mandate was crystal clear. Keep the tempo high. Do not stop the game for trivial things.
And it was working. The source points out that this World Cup was averaging just 22.6 fouls per game. For context, that's down from 25 in the 2022 tournament and down from 27 back in 2018. Referees have been waving away exactly this kind of minor, nothing contact all tournament long.
Exactly. You have an established standard, you have an explicit directive from the very top to let the game breathe, and then suddenly a VAR official reaches back 17 seconds and nearly the full length of the pitch to find a minor shirt tug just to delete a goal against the world champions.
It wasn't just fans on social media losing their minds either. The professional consensus was immediate and just brutal. Dale Johnson from the BBC explicitly said that deleting Egypt's goal completely contradicted how the entire tournament had been refereed.
Yeah, he made a great point.
He said you cannot let minimal contact go on the actual field, only to go hunting for it on a slow-motion monitor later.
Which fundamentally changes the entire nature of the sport. Rob Harris from Sky Sports, he echoed that exact same sentiment. He pointed out that the technology was quite simply never meant to be used for this kind of, well, forensic archaeology.
Forensic archaeology, I love that. My favorite reaction had to be Henry Winter, though. He joked that if they had rewound that Egyptian attacking move any further back in time, Tutankhamun would have been involved.
That is pretty good. But jokes aside, the technical analysis from other referees is what really damns the decision here.
Right. I want to understand the actual mechanics of the rules here, because apparently this wasn't just a subjective bad call.
No, it wasn't. The source highlights the analysis of Fernando Guerrero. He's a highly respected Mexican referee who actually officiated at the 2022 World Cup. Guerrero didn't just say it was a bad judgment call. He argued the protocol itself was fundamentally misapplied due to something called the attacking possession phase.
Okay, wait, how does that work? How can a protocol be misapplied if the foul actually did happen on camera?
Well, the attacking possession phase basically defines how far back in a play you are legally allowed to look for an infringement. The game doesn't just exist as one continuous reviewable timeline. Once a team loses the ball or the opposing team has a clear opportunity to reset, the phase ends.
Oh, I see.
So Guerrero pointed out that after that minor foul at the other end of the pitch, Argentina had time, space, and 3 separate chances to win the ball back before Egypt actually scored.
So the original phase of play was technically over before Salah even made that final pass.
Exactly. The chain was broken. According to Guerrero, that should have made the initial foul entirely unreviewable by the VAR officials.
Yeah.
His verdict was incredibly blunt. He stated clearly that VAR and the referee made a mistake, harmed Egypt, and directly contributed to their elimination.
Which brings us to the real whiplash here. A single bad call is one thing, but how does that instantly turn into millions of people typing the word rigged? You hold that incredibly strict, microscopic 17-second rewind in your head,
Right.
and then you look at what happened just minutes later.
Yeah, this is the contrasting moment that ultimately broke Egypt's spirit.
So we are deep into stoppage time. Argentina has managed to claw their way back, and it's tied 2-2. Egypt is attacking. They get into the Argentina penalty box, and their players are screaming for a foul. They want a penalty.
And what happens next is entirely about the absence of intervention.
Nothing. No whistle, no VAR check, no monitor review at all. The referee simply waves, play on. Argentina immediately breaks straight up the other end on a counterattack, and Enzo Fernandez heads in a 92nd minute winner.
Yeah.
3-2 Argentina. The game is over.
You can just imagine the psychological toll that takes on a team. The Egyptian players essentially collapsed onto the turf, and the fury from the Egyptian camp was unprecedented in its directness.
Unprecedented is the perfect word. Their coach, Hassan, he didn't use polite PR speak. He publicly suggested that FIFA wanted Messi to stay in the running. I mean, he said the quiet part out loud on the record.
Yeah, he went right for it.
He even claimed that Egypt had lodged pre-match objections to the assignment of the referee, François Letexier.
Because Letexier is French, and Argentina famously beat France in that agonizing 2022 World Cup final. Hassan insisted there were pressures from the Argentina side regarding the outcome, and he even confronted the official at full time, literally accusing him of having something to hide.
His forward, Zico, the guy who had that beautiful goal deleted, he went even further. He explicitly accused the referee of robbing an entire nation of its efforts and sarcastically congratulated Argentina on winning the World Cup. But here's where it gets really interesting.
All right, yeah.
Because the fans watching this didn't just see one bad game. They felt like they were watching a rerun.
The echo chamber of suspicion relies entirely on patterns, right? And the source notes that fans immediately started drawing lines connecting this match to other incidents in the tournament.
Okay, tell me about the group stage, because I remember seeing something about a tackle that totally set the internet off.
Yeah, so during the group stage of this very same tournament, Lionel Messi caught Algeria's captain, Aïssa with a studs-up challenge. It was a really nasty tackle. But Messi escaped without even a yellow card.
Oh, wow, that caused a massive uproar at the time. Former players like El Moreno on ESPN called it 100% a red card.
Right.
And Craig Burley warned that letting Messi get away with it would set a precedent that nobody could officiate around. Algeria even lodged a formal complaint.
Now, compare that to the round of 32. The USA's Folarin Balogun plants his foot on a Bosnian defender's ankle in an incident that looks nearly identical to Messi's.
Let me guess. Different outcome.
Completely. Balogun is sent straight off with a red card. Same exact foul, totally different outcome. As the source notes, one of those players happens to be the most famous footballer alive.
Yeah, that does not look good.
And the historical context stretches back even further, right to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The source reminds us that Argentina was awarded a record 5 penalties in that single tournament. Messi took every single one of them.
Oh, right. I remember that quarterfinal against the Netherlands. Messi handled the ball deliberately and was not given the second yellow card that many people watching believed he had earned. The Dutch went out, and Argentina ultimately lifted the trophy.
So you have 4 years of this narrative building up. The unpunished handball against the Dutch, the 5 penalties, the uncarded studs-up stamp against Algeria, the Balogun double standard, and now a 17-second VAR rewind to delete a goal against the champions, followed by an ignored penalty shout at the other end.
Yeah, when you lay it all out like that, you can see why millions of people are typing rigged.
Exactly.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Looking closely at the notes from the source, didn't Egypt actually blow this lead after all of this VAR drama happened?
They absolutely did. And this is the uncomfortable, objective reality of the match that kind of gets lost in all the outrage. 6 minutes after Zico's goal was disallowed, Zico scored again anyway, and that one actually counted.
Wait, so Egypt was actually up 2-0 with just 11 minutes left to play in the match. No referee took that 2-0 lead away from them.
No, they didn't. They lost because Christian Romero outjumped everyone for a header. They lost because Lionel Messi produced a half volley of quite literally ludicrous technique. And they lost because Enzo Fernandez made a brilliant late run.
Right.
Even Egypt's own goalkeeper, Mustafa Shober, who had been heroic all night, by the way, plainly admitted that mistakes just crept into their defense in those final 10 minutes.
So they were wronged by the system in one moment, but they also just failed to hold on when they literally had the game in their hands.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is that if you take a step back and analyze the refereeing decisions completely impartially, there is a legitimate rulebook defense for every single call in that Atlanta game.
Wait, really? Even the contrast between the 17-second rewind and the completely ignored penalty and stoppage time, how can those both be technically correct?
Well, by the strict, rigid letter of the law, an attacking foul in the build-up to a goal is reviewable. I mean, the shirt tug happened, the toe was stepped on. Even Henry Winter, who made the Tutankhamun joke, conceded it was probably the right decision by the very strictest interpretation of the rulebook.
Okay, but what about Egypt's late penalty appeal, the one that wasn't even checked on the monitor?
This comes down to the mechanics of how the penalty box actually operates. Because that incident happened inside the penalty box, VAR wasn't assessing just a standard foul, it was assessing whether to award a penalty kick.
Right, okay.
A penalty carries a significantly higher bar for physical contact than a foul out in the open pitch.
That feels completely counterintuitive, though. Like a foul is a foul, isn't it?
In theory, yes. But in practice, giving a team an 80% chance to score a goal from the penalty spot requires a much more obvious infraction. Had that exact same contact occurred a yard outside the box, consistency might have demanded a foul.
Wow.
But inside the box, the system deemed there wasn't enough contact for a spot kick, so play continued.
That is wild. Because to the naked eye, those two decisions look completely contradictory. One gets a goal deleted, the other just gets waved on. But they are actually being governed by two entirely different invisible thresholds programmed right into the system.
Exactly. It's not necessarily human corruption. It might just be a broken technological system doing exactly what it was built to do, reverse engineering minor fouls that nobody saw, in service to the absolute letter of a law that has drifted miles away from the actual spirit of the sport.
It's the laser security system locking the manager out of the bank. The technology was introduced to correct clear and obvious errors. Things like a player punching the winner into the net or a huge foul happening outside the referee's line of sight, but it has just mutated into an auditing tool for minor infractions.
And that brings us to a massive question. If there are legitimate, by-the-book defenses for these calls, why does the whole world automatically assume FIFA is fixing matches for Lionel Messi?
Yeah.
Why is rigged the default reaction?
Well, that requires us to transition from the pitch to the boardroom. The refereeing decisions don't happen in a vacuum. What else was happening at this tournament to make everyone just assume the worst? The source details some absolutely astonishing systemic issues surrounding this specific World Cup. We really need to look at these claims impartially, just as events framing the atmosphere, because they are staggering.
They really paint a picture of an institution that has completely blurred the lines between sport, commerce, and geopolitics.
I mean, I'm looking at the first claim here from the source, and I almost didn't believe it. The U.S. president actually phoned FIFA president Gianni Infantino to use an unprecedented clause to suspend a red card for the host nation's striker.
Yeah, a clause never once used at a World Cup before. To understand why this is so explosive, you have to know that FIFA historically operates with a zero-tolerance policy for government interference in football.
Right.
They have literally banned entire countries from competing just because a politician tried to fire a football federation head.
But here, the head of state of the host nation makes a phone call, and a red card just vanishes.
Jurgen Klopp reacted to that by saying, quote, "This is our sport, not theirs." And Wayne Rooney called it an absolute disgrace. It just shatters the illusion of sporting independence.
And then you have the hydration breaks. FIFA instituted these breaks that conveniently chop every half in two. How does a hydration break turn into a massive controversy?
Because football is unique due to its continuous 45-minute flow, it isn't built for commercial timeouts. The source reports this innovation stopping the game for mandatory water breaks, regardless of the actual temperature, is allegedly worth around $500 million to American broadcasters in ad revenue.
So they're essentially inventing TV timeouts and completely altering the rhythm of the sport for $500 million. Barney Ronay over at The Guardian actually called that an abomination.
And you also have FIFA awarding its inaugural Peace Prize to Donald Trump.
Right, which is just bizarre.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, just days after the Egypt controversy, FIFA announces the officiating crew for the upcoming France versus Morocco quarterfinal. And who do they appoint? An entirely Argentine crew led by referee Facundo Tello.
Yeah.
The first single nationality panel of the entire tournament. Why is that such a huge problem?
Because if France wins that quarterfinal, they likely face Argentina in the final. You have an all-Argentine crew officiating the team that poses the biggest threat to Argentina's title defense. It is an extraordinary conflict of interest, or at the very least, an astonishing lack of self-awareness by the organizing committee.
The optics are just terrible.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you begin to see exactly why the fans reacted the way they did to the Egypt match. When an institution operates with such blatant, visible commercial and political motivations, suspending red cards for host nations, inventing multi-million-dollar TV timeouts, making bizarre geopolitical awards, and showing completely tone-deaf referee assignments, it burns all of its credibility.
Yeah, a deep run by Lionel Messi in his final World Cup sells advertising and drives subscriptions in a way an early elimination just never could. The motive is so financially obvious that people naturally assume the worst when a 50-50 call goes his way.
Exactly.
As the source says, the damage isn't whether the fix is actually in. Nobody can prove that, and honestly, it probably isn't. The real damage is that it no longer matters whether it's true. The institution has already lost the public.
Egypt's grievance isn't just about one game anymore. It has become a proxy for football's grievance with FIFA. The suspicion itself has become the primary story of the tournament.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this? Why should you care about a soccer match in Atlanta if you aren't like a massive sports fan? Because this is a perfect real-world example of the mechanics of trust. It shows us how fragile institutional credibility really is. Once an authority figure, a governing body, or any institution loses the benefit of the doubt, even perfectly innocent, rule-abiding mistakes will be viewed as malicious corruption. Once you burn that foundation of trust, every single action you take is viewed through a lens of suspicion.
Which leaves us with a final question to really mull over today. We started by talking about lasers and bank vaults. As we continue to introduce more of this quote-unquote perfect technology like VAR into sports and honestly into our daily lives with the goal of eliminating human error, we have to ask ourselves something. Are we actually making things fairer?
That is the question.
By demanding absolute microscopic perfection, are we simply replacing natural, understandable human mistakes with a rigid system that makes every single action look like a calculated, algorithmic conspiracy?
Are the lasers keeping us safe, or are they just making us totally paranoid? It's a fascinating question, and this tournament is giving us a front row seat to the answer. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we will catch you next time.